From the Black Swan Media Studios, deep inside a secret underground bunker, we're speaking to freedom-loving patriots from all around the country and the world. Welcome to the Resistance. This is John Crump, live.
And we are live on a very, very exciting day here. We have a new case that just dropped, and it is by GOA, and not only GOA, but it is also by Texas. And not only that, but here's the real exciting part, guys. Guess who is referenced multiple times during the case? Me. Yes, my research.
What do you got to do with Texas?
Well, it's they are challenging. They are challenging the pistol brace rule with Texas.
But so why are you mentioning the case? And
because my research.
Oh, okay.
I did a lot of research, and I got a lot of information that other people did not get.
So One Love Design is throwing down a challenge.
What's that challenge?
Is our show going to last more than 15 minutes today?
It will. I got some information that I just happened to get some information, and then I was like, oh, let me do some research into this. And I did some research into this, and what I turned up was shocking, and I didn't expect to turn up anything.
So it basically, the information I had yesterday is still good and verified.
Yeah, it's still good. I wouldn't say it's 100% verified, but it's looking good.
That's messed up.
Kind of interesting, if you ask me. That's the whole thing.
So here's the interesting thing about being on the inside of gun news. Sometimes you know crap, you just don't want to talk about it yet because it might not be good for the industry.
Well, no, it's not only it's this is more of I want to verify everything. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, yesterday I also ran across something else that showed that like Lawrence DeMonico's real name is not Lawrence DeMonico, for example.
Huh.
Now, I have no idea why that is, or what's the whole entire point of having a moniker or changing your name from like Larry Lee Jr. Maybe it sounds better. I don't know. So I mean, so like that. I mean, so we learned stuff like that, and that's not a big deal, right? That's not a big deal, but sometimes it is. And
I just hit 200 subs on my firearms channel.
Ooh, awesome.
Breaking news! Got to do the breaking news button for that.
Well, we're gonna hit the breaking news in a second, but we're headed for that too.
Breaking news!
I'm gonna actually post this because we're gonna get into some pistol brace stuff, and Lewis is gonna be on a little bit later. You said?
Oh, well. He said he was going to be on, but not the whole show. So I'm not sure when he's dropping in.
Well, we get the pistol brace thing. I dropped a video on it, and yeah, I did eat a Snickers before this. So I dropped John Kimball. I think I found a lawyer, but now I'm having issues with the person I was getting a lawyer for contacting me back. So yeah. I'm working on it. John Kimball asked me to help someone out, and I'm doing that. So let's get back into this pistol brace thing. GOA sued in Texas with the Governor Paxton of Texas, and it's extensive. People were asking me, like, why haven't GOA sued? Why haven't GOA sued? And I'm like, I talked to Steven Stimbilier. and I talked to Rob Olson, and they're like, yeah, it's coming. It's going to be it's going to be a massive complaint. It's gonna, and it really was. I mean, it attacked the whole entire final rule on multiple things, and so it attacks that on APA, and also attacks the whole entire goddamn NFA, and partially and completely.
Cool. So this now, I mean, is this like a 150-page document? What are we talking about?
That's 120 some. Yeah. So
Cool.
basically, it's calling pistols and SBR both protected arms because they are. It also, you know what? F it. I'm gonna bring the whole damn thing up. No, I'll just scroll through it.
We get to speed read the document.
I already did. I don't know why you think that's so amazing.
No. I mean speed reading for the audience, not for you. I just.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant me. Like you always like, oh,
Nah.
you're speed reading again.
No, I don't believe I've ever said that. Maybe you're confusing me with somebody that doesn't like you.
No. Well, you're not saying it that way, but you're saying you read the document.
I've commented on your near photographic.
I don't have a near photographic memory. Not at all. I gotta get my other monitor back working. But so I won't be able to see like what people are saying because I don't have my other monitor hooked up.
Okay, I can cover that.
It looks like other stuff. And I brought down another monitor, but I had to bring it back up because it's my gaming monitor. And that works for my Mac. This monitor will not work for my Mac, even though it did one time. But it works for my other computers. But my other monitors work with my Mac. I don't know.
Are you shopping at the dumpster of Goodwill like I do?
No.
Oh.
All right, so let's go ahead. We're going to go through and we're going to...
Did I see 922R in there?
Yeah, that is in there. So basically, the first thing it goes through, you know, the history and everything. And right here, this is one of the things that I've brought up before in the past, that the NFA originally was meant to ban pistols. But they cannot get that through, so they banned short-barreled rifles instead. Because
it's like we got to ban something.
Yeah, because they figured that, you know, hey, one that will never stand up to constitutional musters, but if we just ban SBRs, maybe that will. And it talks about how the new rule, how the NFA basically says you need a Form 1 before you can make a pistol, and the new rule is saying, forget the NFA, forget the law, obey the rule. And it also goes into it about the Form 4, saying forget the law, just obey the rule. So I mean, that's the first couple points, which I'm not going to go too much into. But we go to the current processing time for the NFA. The NFA's processing times right now is about 8 months for Form 4s with E-forms. And this is interesting because they originally said that NFA times would be down to 90 days or less under the new... I have not read that book, Unintended Consequences. I will have to read that, John Kimball. I'll put it on my reading list.
Speed read it. Read it.
I'm going to finish my other book. I read half a book last night, so I'm going to finish it tonight. That
was Homer and the Iliad?
No. It was actually... we'll talk about that book later. Doesn't matter. Basically, so the NFA times are running months. They promised e-forms would be around 90 days, which is not the case, unfortunately. So it references the amount of days that it is taking. And if you add in all these other forms, no matter how many people they bring in, extra people they bring in from the FBI. If you don't know, they're going to bring in some people from the FBI to help try to get through the backlog. It is not going to be a quick process. Okay, so here we go. This talks about how the this talks about how the ATF has nearly a decade been approving braces. They approved the KAK Shockwave. They approved the original brace by SB Tactical, which was known colloquial as the SIG brace, and that was back in 2014-ish, I believe. So almost for about 9 years, so almost. And it just goes through all the different braces that they've approved, and there's a lot of them. And it talks about how many it talks about how popular that braced pistols are and how there's millions out there.
So that's establishing common use.
Correct. Under Heller, which we had Dick Heller on last week. If you guys didn't watch that, you really should. Under Heller, it states that you cannot ban firearms that are in common use. And with millions and millions of braces in common use or in use, that would be common use. So you are correct about that. And this talks about the 922R thing, where it doesn't apply to most people, but sometimes it will, because if you read 922R, the way they're applying it isn't the way that the law applies it. So they're basically changing the law to stop it, right? Now, this is an interesting argument right here. They're saying that the rule is so different from the original rule that it fails the NPRM, which is the rulemaking procedures, right? Because one of the things that they did is they really didn't touch rifles on here, but it kind of goes against like what rifles are. And they also show that they had like worksheet 4999 and all this other stuff that didn't make the final rule, and they replaced it. And all the comments which they received, which is around 210,000, it really didn't get a chance to comment on what the actual final rule is, right? Because the final rule is so different. I can hear your bamboo going there. Yeah. The final rule is so different from the actual rule that it violates the comment period, because we really didn't have a chance, because we were addressing 4999 and all this other stuff, and the final rule is so different from the proposed rule that it violates the rulemaking procedures.
A bit of a bait and switch.
Correct. It's basically what they were saying. So this basically highlights everything that is going through before. Now it's saying that the final rule violates the APA because it's arbitrary and capricious, which means it's not clear. So it doesn't really clarify anything.
What's the APA?
It's the Administrative Procedures Act.
I'm waiting for the ADA violation.
I don't think they really touched that in here, because you only have a certain number of pages to do stuff. Yeah, no one has been busted for a 922R violation, but it does not mean it's not part of the law, and it does not mean it cannot be used as a vector of attack. So it basically goes how like they wouldn't specify length of pull, the area, or anything like that. Like length of pull. It says consistent with simulated design rifles, but that doesn't actually give you anything to go off of. So, like, how similar does it have to be? Does it have to be exactly? Can it be shorter? Can it be longer? Doesn't really state, right?
John, can we hold on this because we have Luis Valdez joining us?
Yeah, go ahead, bring us back in.
Let's see, where is he? There he is. It's a stream.
Hey, Lois, we're going over the new rule that GOA has filed another new lawsuit. Then we'll get to Florida in a second.
Our brace band lawsuit, fantastic.
Yeah. So,
Luis, how long do you have to spend with us?
I got maybe about 5-10 minutes. I could kind of go over what's been going on here in Florida real quick.
All right, let's go into what's going on in Florida, then we'll jump back into the rule.
So, real simple, as everyone has seen, just about a week ago, a constitutional carry bill was introduced at a big press conference at the state capitol. But here's the thing. It's not a real constitutional carry bill. It's a permitless concealed carry only bill. It was introduced by Representative Chuck Brannon. And for folks that don't know, he was the committee chair last year that blocked constitutional carry from being heard in his committee. And it was his legislative aide that threw away our petitions that we collected across the state to basically ask him to bring the bill up last year for a vote in committee. So it was his office that threw those petitions away. So now he has introduced it this year. This past Tuesday, well, the reason why it's not a real constitutional carry bill, as I said, it's permitless concealed carry only. It still bans open carry, which is really kind of insulting because the open carry ban was instituted in 1987 by one of the most anti-gun Democrats in Florida history, Janet Reno. With that, you know, she was the one that basically directed the ATF at Waco to enforce gun control. So you have Republicans refusing to move forward and back a true constitutional carry bill. It's only permitless concealed. But what happened this week, this Tuesday, was the bill's first committee meeting. And there was about 120 registered speakers, give or take. Half of them were the typical anti-gun, moms demand action types, all wearing their red shirts. But the other half were gun owners from all across the state. And they all said the same thing. They want a real bill. They want open carry added to the bill. No more, no less. They were fiery. They were angry. They were disheartened by the fact that a Republican supermajority state, a state with where Republicans control over 80% of the legislature, where every legislative position of power is under Republican control, that this is all that they're advancing. GOA has heard from multiple lawmakers now that any lawmaker that introduces an amendment to amend the bill to include open carry, or any lawmaker that introduces a bill to push open carry, will be sabatinied, that they will be literally exiled to the basement. All of their bills that they want to push forward will be killed in committee. And that it's punishment, it's political punishment. And again, this is Republicans doing this.
Why does Florida have so many rhinos?
I wish I had an answer for that, but basically it comes down to, in my theory, you have a combination of former blue dog Southern Democrats that became Republicans. You got a bunch of Northeast Country Club Republicans, and both of them have one thing in common. They don't like the idea of working class people being able to carry firearms.
Because in like Virginia, which is the only state that I really have the reference because I live here, the Senate is controlled by Democrats, and the House of Commons is controlled by Republicans. But we really don't have rhinos.
Not in Florida. Here, it's a supermajority. Democrats control no legislative power whatsoever. They literally can't do anything, nothing at all. And yet,
like in Virginia, if we had that, basically, you can't run as a Republican that controls any type of gun control in Virginia. You would not get elected.
They get elected here in Florida and they win office because, as we saw with the 2018 Parkland bill, not a single Republican lost election for passing gun control.
I think a lot of it has to do with VCDL, actually, to tell you the truth, because they're
it's changing here.
Very powerful in Virginia.
It's changing here in Florida. The big thing that's changing now is we're involved here in Florida. We're active, and this past committee meeting was a sign of that involvement in the change. Because really, in Florida's legislative history, what's always happened is during these committee meetings, 2 or 3 people would show up that are pro-gun. The mad mommies would show up with their busfuls, and the legislature would just kind of wipe their hands. The legislature was not expecting a crowd full of pro-gun people to be angry at the bill, to be angry and say, this bill isn't what we want. This isn't real constitution.
So in other words, everybody in the room is mad at them. Not half of the people, everybody.
Everyone at the room is mad at them. And the bill's sponsor, Chuck Brannon, at the end of it all, he was interviewed by the Tampa Bay Times, and he I don't have his quote in front of me, but he basically made the comment of they asked him, where do you, with everyone pushing for open carry, where are you on this? And his statement was to the effect of, the bill is what it is as it is. Tough luck. And then he and then he made further statement to the effect of, well, the pro-gun side doesn't like the bill. The anti-gun side doesn't like the bill. I think we're in a good position then in the middle.
Oh, ow. Yeah,
and this is a Republican who campaigns on being pro-gun.
Yeah, they're Republican till the ballots cast for them. But I'll tell you, it drives me crazy. Like, I live in Palm Beach County, and several years back, I don't know if it was 10 or 15 years ago, Palm Beach County was like plus 10D, meaning that there's 20% more Democrat voters in the county. It's flipped. It's not plus 10, 20R, but it's up there where we have a positive Republican percentage voting now in Palm Beach County. And you would think what drives me crazy about Republicans is, like Dan Bongino always says, that like all Democrats are Democrats and most Republicans are Democrats also. It never goes the other way. And when the Democrats are in control, they push the pedal to the metal and they ram through every stinking thing they can. Meanwhile, the Republicans are like, oh, let's play nice and fair. I'm like, no, step on their throats. I'm so sick of this crap.
That's a major issue. I mean, they have 80% control of the legislature. They could push whatever they want, and they're afraid that open carry is going to be a negative issue when 47 states and 2 U.S. territories have open carry. The excuse I've heard constantly is it's going to affect tourism. It's going to affect tourism. Democrat supermajority Hawaii now has open carry with a permit, and Florida still outlaws it. Hawaii, of all places. But Republican lawmakers are afraid. And it comes down to a couple of things. It comes down to the Florida Sheriff's Association, which has historically been anti-gun. The current chairman of that organization, Sheriff, I can never pronounce his name right. I believe it's Ninehouse. He's out of Hernando County, I believe.
Okay.
It's either Hernando County. It's either Hernando County or it's Hendry County. I think it's Hernando County. But anyways, the current chairman of the Florida Sheriff's Association last year, he flat out said he thinks open carry should be outlawed. It should stay outlawed and it should stay illegal.
Wow.
And yet he had the nerve to stand with Paul Renner, the House Speaker, last week and say, the Florida Sheriff's Association is for protecting Floridians' Second Amendment rights. Yet in no way does he want to actually advance a real bill, back a real bill And the conditions of support right now is they will only back this permitless carry only bill on the condition that it stays as it is, that there's a mandatory ID presentation requirement in the bill. Yeah, you have to carry ID on you at all times, and law enforcement could request it at all times. Basically,
so you could be harassed.
Yeah, there is no legal safety net to not be harassed by law enforcement in this bill. There is no repeal of the mandatory waiting periods. There is no repeal of the gun-free zones. There is no repeal of the ban on campus carry. There is no repeal on the under 21 purchase ban. None of that. This is not a Second Amendment bill. You know, are we backing the bill? Yes. Why? Because it's a small step forward. But it's not the big leap that they claim to be taking. The governor claims that Florida is the freest state in the union, and yet we're one of 3 states that outright ban open carry, and you have Republicans defending Janet Reno's gun control policy.
But I like how you phrase that. I didn't realize, being only a Florida resident for 15 years, I didn't realize Janet Reno was from Florida and that she was responsible for that. But this is, I always get really jammed up when they say, like, when Texas went, like open carry and then constitutional carry, and each time you get these hysterical, the streets will run red with blood. I'm like, it was a snore fest. You know, it's just such a load of BS. First off, Orlando is more metro. It's not rural, and most people in metro areas don't open carry anyhow.
But that's not even the issue. In Orlando, in of itself, you have Machine Gun America. It's in Kissimmee, in Orlando metro area,
and nobody goes there because they don't like it.
And for the viewers that don't know what Machine Gun America is, it is a small shooting range that is that they're a Class 3 dealer and manufacturer, and they rent out machine guns. They're 5 minutes from Disney World, and they make money hand over fist. They are a money printing machine. You go in there and you could spend $300 for 30 seconds worth of time. Literally, it's like $300 and you get to shoot 3 magazines worth out of a full auto M16, an MP5, and a 1022 or an FNFAL, you know, something of that sort. It's just, and you're done. And they say, thank you. And I mean, they make money hands over fist. And it's a tourist trap. You know, you have people from all over the globe go there. But guns supposedly hurt the tourism industry. If that was the case, this business wouldn't be making money. This business wouldn't be printing money. And they are 5 minutes from Disney World. But the other argument is, especially from that neck of the woods, you have Representative Dave Smith, a Republican. Last year, he flat out said he's against open carry and constitutional carry because he thinks it's going to scare away international tourists. Mind you, international tourism is 4% of all total tourists that visit Florida. That's
really?
it.
Oh, I thought it was huge, but
no, 4%. The state of Florida has a quasi-independent government-owned company called Visit Florida, and it's basically their tourism board. And if you go to their website, they actually keep track of tourism on if they're Americans, if they're Canadians, or if they're from elsewhere. And out of the millions of people that visit Florida, 96% are Americans.
Of which 24 states have open carry.
25 states are constitutional carry, and 47 states have open carry, and 2 U.S. territories have open carry. I could open carry in 2 U.S. territories. I can't vote in them, but by God, I could open carry and exercise my Second Amendment rights in them. But I can't do that here in Florida.
That's crazy.
Yeah. We have a question. When will people be able to install triggers?
What was the question?
When will people be able to install triggers?
Still waiting on that one. Republicans are lovingly defending that Gun Control Act.
Yeah.
But and that's one of the craziest parts of what was it, like 120 pages, that law? it was saying enhanced triggers. So like I couldn't put a Geisley trigger or a nickel boron trigger in a firearm that had a lesser trigger in it or a different trigger, say.
Yeah, it's so vaguely written that if I get a factory Glock pistol with an 8.5-pound trigger connector, and I want to put a factory Glock 3.5-pound trigger connector in it, I could technically be violating the law, and it's a felony because I am increasing the rate of fire on that pistol. Simply taking a 1911 to my local gunsmith and saying, hey, slick it up so, there's less creep in the trigger, that could be interpreted as increasing the rate of fire. And again, this was all done by Republicans. And this is the thing that ticks me off as a Floridian. You had the Texas Attorney General and the Tennessee Attorney General. They stopped defending their under 21 carry laws, their carry ban. They're like, hey, look, because of the Bruin decision,
right?
Anyone under the age of 21, from 18 to 21, they can now legally carry. We're not going to defend it. We're not going to fight for it in court. It's bad. It's a bad law. Florida's Attorney General, Ashley Moody, is still defending to this day the under 21 purchase ban that doesn't let anyone under the age of 21 legally purchase a firearm. Republican. And, I'm questioning my governor on this. I'm questioning our governor on this because, Rich, I know you live in Florida too. And this is the question. Yep. I want to ask you this. Have you seen Governor DeSantis publicly tell Ashley Moody to stop defending this law?
No. But like a year ago, or I guess it was towards the end of summer, he was saying like, yeah, I'll bring an open carry law. I'll sign it. But, I don't know if that was just...
Have you seen him publicly done press conferences like Greg Abbott and Brian Kemp literally going across the state saying, I want this on my desk. I want it on my desk now?
No, he hasn't.
No, all he's done is anytime he's at a press conference that's unrelated to gun rights and someone in the crowd asks him where he stands on gun rights, it's always been the very squishy, I support this thing. If it comes to my desk, I'll sign it type, I want to mark that checkbox for my 2024 campaign type speech. And here's the really scary thing. You have one of his mega campaign donors, a guy by the name of Jeff Hartley in Tallahassee, who has raised over $1 million for him. He's a lobbyist, and his firm was hired by Everytown for Gun Safety, Michael Bloomberg's gun control group. You have a guy that has a history of working with and lobbying for and getting Republicans elected into office. This guy has raised millions of dollars for Ron DeSantis. And he's literally registered right now in the Florida House as a lobbyist for a gun control organization against the bill that we're talking about right now. Now, look, I understand lobbyists, these open lobbying firms, they're like lawyers. They get clients from different things and they represent their clients. But this guy has a very good connection with DeSantis. Did Everytown hire him because they want to work on, they want to network off that? Is there a quid pro quo deal? Is it basically like, hey, look, we'll do the dog and pony show. We'll make it look like we're fighting this bill, but we know this bill is going to pass. Rah, rah, rah. It looks good for you, man. Yeah, we'll just, is it like a scheduled, choreographed WWF wrestling match? Because that's what it's looking like. That's what everything in the legislature right now is looking like. Again, we've heard from multiple lawmakers that any and all amendments to add open carry to the bill will be shot down. It won't be allowed to even get out of the gate. And this is Republicans. We have word that the Florida Sheriff Association is against open carry. We have word that the Senate President, Kathleen Passidomo, is against open carry. And with DeSantis's inactions, it looks like he might not care, and he's just doing this so he has a checkbox for his 2024 presidential campaign, because he's going to face presidential primary challengers. There's word that Greg Abbott's probably going to file. There's word that Mike DeWine of Ohio is probably going to file. There's word that Brian Kemp is probably going to file. All of these guys, all of these other governors, they've passed real solid constitutional carry bills with open carry.
Mm-hmm.
And if DeSantis cannot get a Republican super-controlled legislature to pass a real pro-gun bill that really advances Florida's gun rights forward, how will he look if he wins the White House and he has to deal with an aggressive, squishy Congress? And what if it's a Democrat-controlled Congress and they push him an assault weapons ban? They push him a magazine ban. They push him an importation or an ammunition ban. Will he kind of be like, well, it's this? These are legitimate questions.
He's got no track history with a solid 2A background. And so we have a question, I'm assuming not a Floridian, and it says, can you carry in Florida if you have a permit to carry? The answer is yes. So you have to be over 21, and it's pistol only. So I'll tell you what's kind of crazy is my first permit was a Minnesota permit, and it's a carry permit, and carry any way you want and whatever you want, and as many of them as you want.
In Virginia, we don't need a permit to open carry.
Yeah,
so in Minnesota, you could sling an AR across your back, and that's cool. That's fine.
In Virginia, you can do that too.
Florida's permit is strictly a concealed weapon license, and that applies to handguns, knives, truncheons, billy clubs, but it doesn't apply to long guns. It doesn't apply to NFA items. Machine guns are specifically listed as no-go, and SBRs are basically verboten because they're long guns. It's only a handgun. Basically, you can only conceal carry a handgun and a knife in Florida. That's it.
Unless you're on your way to a fishing spot or hunting and you have a permit.
Fishing, hunting, camping, or you're on your way to a shooting range or coming back from a shooting range. That's it.
The armed fisherman, right?
Yeah, but here's the thing. That's not all right. You could. That's the same thing in New York and Illinois, for God's sakes. If you want to, Illinois and New York have the same laws on the books because they're not going to arrest a hunter for openly carrying his bolt-action rifle or his shotgun to his deer stand. Because even there, the most anti-gun state, they still let you hunt. And that's basically what Florida's carry laws are. Florida's carry laws are basically not a right, it's a privilege. The state Supreme Court ruled as such in 2016 with Norman v. State. And even post-Bruin, again, you have tremendous wins across the country. And you would think that Florida, being advertised as the freest state in the country, we're not. We don't have that. We're the only Republican-controlled state that has an open carry ban.
And you can carry while you're fishing.
Yeah, that's it. You can only
carry,
hunting. You can open carry while you're fishing. Hunting, fishing, hiking, and going to and from the range are the only exceptions.
If you print, or you could.
So they're.
If you're printing, if you're walking and you're printing, is that still considered concealed carry, or is that? I know certain states are very, about that stuff.
So Florida has.
There used to be laws against that.
Yeah. So right now on the books we have state statute 790.053, and it basically says that if there's an accidental exposure for a brief amount of time, it's not an arrestable offense. And that was amended and passed in 2011. Well, here's the issue. In 2012, you had Mr. Daley Norman, a licensed permitted concealed carry holder, had an accidental exposure in Fort Pierce, Florida, and a Karen called because, oh my God, a black guy is walking down the sidewalk with a pistol on his head. And what did he get? He got held at gunpoint and forced to the ground with a knee to his back and guns pointed at him. And that was the case that went to the state Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court ruled that you don't have a right, you have a privilege to carry in Florida. And just recently, in Columbia County, you had a blind man who was walking to jury duty, and he had he had a folding walking cane, for a seeing eye cane, folded up in his back pocket. And the sheriff's deputies saw light glint off it, and they initiated a contact with him because they thought he had a gun in his back pocket. In the end, they arrested him for disorderly conduct.
Oh my gosh!
Oh wow, that's
And I can tell you from personal experience.
Your boss.
When I lived in Miami-Dade County, and I was a police officer, and I rode motorcycles, I was driving to my house on the Palmetto Expressway. A marked Miami-Dade police unit passed me and saw my pistol because my T-shirt was flapping in the wind. Because you're on a motorcycle, it happens.
Right.
He slows down, pulls behind me, waits till I get off the exit, pulls me over, and holds me at gunpoint. And the only reason why I wasn't arrested was because I was able to identify myself as a law enforcement officer and produce credentials. If I was a common citizen that didn't have a piece of tin in my wallet, I probably would have been arrested for that.
Isn't that like,
oh boy,
unequal treatment under the law?
Florida don't care because the Florida State Constitution says you have the right to keep and bear arms, comma, the legislature has the right to regulate the method of carry.
And how does that stand up under Bruin, or have that been challenged yet?
It has not been challenged yet. I want to personally challenge that. I think that infringes on constitutional rights, especially because of the historical reasoning of it. It was passed in the 1880s when Southern bigoted Jim Crow ex-Confederate Democrats regained control of the state legislature after the Civil War, and they rewrote the state constitution specifically to disarm blacks. And in 1941, you had Watson v. Stone, a state Supreme Court case. And I ain't making the guy's name up. He is not a paid extra from the Dukes of Hazzard. Chief Justice Rutherford Buford basically said in his written opinion of that case, I know of this law. This law was written in the 1890s and amended in the 1900s, specifically to disarm blacks, to never be applied against the white population. The entire purpose of it was to keep the white population feeling safe. And if it was challenged on the basis of constitutionality, it would probably be stricken from the record.
Interesting. I thought you were going to say his name was Roscoe Pico Train or something like that. But
no, but Rutherford Buford was his name.
Buford. That sounds like a guy that would be wearing like a Colonel Sanders outfit running a plantation. And
earlier this year, we were up in the panhandle of Florida at one of the Republican county level executive committees.
Redneck Riviera.
Yep, the Redneck Riviera. You got that right. We were there. They invited us. The party chair for that county's REC invited us to present to a constitutional carry resolution, a real constitutional carry resolution. And he warned us, and he said, hey, look, there's going to be some Republicans here that are kind of against it. And we're like, okay, we'll see what the issue is. One of the people that were against it is a retired judge who publicly stated in the room that he carries without a permit. He violates state law. And I asked him, I'm like, wait, just to reemphasize this. You're stating that you openly violate state law. He goes, yep, I don't need a permit to carry a gun. I'm like, okay, so why are you against constitutional carry? And his mindset was, his argument was literally because the black population is a possible threat.
Wow.
The guy next to him brought up a reason of some ex-Confederate town marshal that was killed like in 1866 or 1867. And that's the reason why they still need permitting systems right now.
That's
wow.
And these were Republicans that said this. And look, the resolution. Now here's the good side. The resolution passed. And again, the committee chair himself was in favor of the resolution. He gave us a heads up. He's like, hey, look, man, this is going to be, you're going to be hearing a lot of stupid stuff. And he wasn't kidding. We were, by the end of it, we were literally like, are we in a 1940s Democrat Party convention or something? Like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah. One Love Design with the $20 super chat. He says GOA with a couple guns. I guess he's going to the gun show with guns. When I say guns, I mean
biceps,
like muscles, and a couple American flags. But yeah, the whole thing, that racism just pisses me off, man. Especially
that's crazy.
Look, it pisses me off. I'm a minority. I'm Hispanic. My wife is black. My kid is
You're a white
biracial.
Hispanic.
Huh?
You're a white Hispanic. Come on, man.
Look, as I always have to explain.
Remember that, the white Hispanic.
Oh, I know, but as I always have to explain to everyone, Hispanic is not a race. We're an ethnicity. We're white. We're black. We're Asian. Yes, there's Asian Hispanics out there. One of the former presidents of Peru is Asian and Hispanic. My wife is black and Hispanic. So, but that's besides the point. Racism, period, sucks. Bigotry sucks. And any gun control sucks, especially when the entire purpose behind it is to disarm and oppress certain groups. Whether, I don't care if you're oppressing blacks, I don't care if you're oppressing Hispanics, Asians, whites, Jews, whatever. It all sucks because the New York Sullivan Act was passed in 1911 because a bunch of
Italian Catholics.
Yeah, well, it wasn't even that. You had the Irish control. You know, by that point, you had the Irish political machine.
Yeah,
controlling.
They
didn't like Italians coming in because they viewed Italians as stepping in on their political turf. So, they passed the Sullivan Act to make sure those dirty Italians couldn't carry a gun. Out west, you had it in California for the Chinese. They didn't want Chinese laborers to be armed. Here in the Deep South, they didn't want black people to be armed. You know, it's always that. It's gun control has never been about crime. It's never been about safety. It's always been about oppression. And the fact that, again, you have a Republican supermajority state defending Janet Reno's gun control is appalling. Janet Reno, the woman that's had ATF kill women and children in Waco, Texas.
The hero of Waco. That's sarcasm, by the way.
Oh, I know.
Wow.
I figured. That you have Republicans upholding her policies. Because in 1987, when Florida became shell issue, open carry was legal. And then during a special session to discuss tax policy, Janet Reno was able to convince enough lawmakers to push a bill to outlaw open carry.
Unbelievable.
That's pathetic, man. It's like incredibly pathetic. Yeah, all gun control is racist, and
its origins are all racist.
Yeah, if you look,
Lewis, I don't know if you know, but Sullivan had syphilis, which a symptom is paranoia.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. That is true. I can fact check that. But not only that, but if you look out in California, the Mumford laws are racist. Then you have the whole Reconstruction period with the Jim Crow gun laws. You have like the Black Wall Street stuff. It's
it's horrible. I mean, yeah, the Mumford Act of California is especially appalling. You know, whether you agree or not with the political stance of the Black Panthers, and I don't agree with them. Look, they're Marxists. I don't agree with Marxism. I don't agree with socialism, but I understand why they were protesting and what they were protesting about. LAPD. I mean, the LAPD. No, but here
what we're protesting about.
But for folks that don't know why they were protesting, what was the impetus to even drive people to join the Black Panthers? You had the Watts neighborhood of Los Angeles, which was a historically black neighborhood. The LAPD was historically racist towards those residents. And at some point, the residents of that neighborhood said, screw it, we're arming up and we're policing ourselves. We're going to make sure crime doesn't happen on our streets, and we're going to make sure racist cops don't abuse us. And again, I'm a 15-year veteran law enforcement officer who is a second-generation cop. My old man was a cop for 35 years. So I'm not saying this because I hate cops, but this is the truth. The Black Panthers were formed because enough people were saying, to hell with this, we're tired of being abused. And then it was co-opted due to Marxism and socialism and all that. But they went up to the state capitol in California, in Sacramento, to protest a gun ban, to say, no, our rights are not going to be restricted. And the Mumford Act was passed specifically because, oh my God, you had black people wanting to defend themselves, wanting to defend their homes, wanting to defend their neighborhoods.
Unbelievable.
And Reagan actually championed it.
Yeah.
They also championed the Hughes Amendment too.
Yeah. And
You just
that's
can't.
the issue. That's the same history here in Florida, except it goes on for over a century. And we still have the remnants and the stains of it on our fabric of our state to this day. And again, Republicans are defending Janet Reno's gun policies, for God's sakes. All because the Florida Sheriff's Association doesn't back it. You know what? Last I checked, sheriffs, you work for us, the people. We vote you into office. We vote lawmakers into office.
Janet Reno, the first trans AG.
But that's the issue here in Florida. And again, the
look,
bill's sponsor literally said, or basically said to gun owners, enjoy the table scraps you're getting. You ain't getting the full steak. I'm happy that both sides of the aisle are angry at me. Gun owners are angry at this bill, and gun grabbers are angry at this bill. That means I'm doing something right. No, that means you're a squishy, worthless rhino that can't do anything right. You can't appease everyone. Do your job.
Right.
You uphold an oath to defend and advance the Constitution. Guess what? Do your job, Chuck Brannon.
Yeah,
Wow.
Janet Reno doesn't have an Adam's apple. She has an orchard.
Oh, geez. So can we write, what can we do?
Go to florida.gunowners.org, the state GOA website. We have an alert on the page. It's the second alert right now. And you can blast it and tell Florida lawmakers, the governor and the lieutenant governor, you want a real constitutional carry bill. You want open carry added to this bill. No more, no less. And for your viewers outside of Florida, call the governor's office. Call Governor DeSantis and tell him that you're watching what goes on right now, and this could affect his outcome for the 2024 Republican primary. Because again, he's going to face challengers that have passed real constitutional carry bills. And depending on what he does, if the governor actually steps up to the plate and says, I want a real bill, then gun owners will be supportive. But if he sits to the sideline, he allows the legislature to give him this counterfeit carry bill, this watered down piece of legislation, it's going to look bad. And again, we're still backing the bill because it's a step forward.
Yeah,
but it's
not
a
compromise.
step forward.
It's a step forward. Yeah, a lot of people. One of the things that people say, well, GOA backed this one bill and it doesn't give us everything. Well, it moves it a little bit forward, and we're not going to get everything every single time, but we will take. We'll take you. There's a couple of different ways you can eat elephant. You can eat it whole, which you would have a big ass mouth, or you can eat it one bite at a time. Sometimes you have to eat it one bite at a time. So we want to keep on moving forward.
But that doesn't mean you never stop reaching for the brass ring and you never stop pushing to get everything.
100%. You push for what you want. Confrontational Politics is a book written by. Well, I know you read it because you're GOA. Almost, I think everyone at GOA has read it. H.L. Richardson wrote it. Confrontational Politics. It's a great book. If you haven't read it, you guys need to read it. You ask for what you want, and you push for what you want, and you demand for what you want. You might not always get what you want, but it's better at standing. It's better reaching for that and pushing for that, because you will always get more than if you say, okay, well, this is what we think we're going to get. What we can get. We think we can get. This is the maximum we think we can get. So we're going to push for that. No, you reach for what you want. And maybe you'll get only that maximum. Maybe you get a little bit more. But if you start at the maximum point, which you think you're going to get, you're never going to get the maximum.
But it's not even that, because people have been telling us, don't fight it. Don't push for open carry. Just take the win. You know what? That might work if it's a squishy state, like in your case, Virginia, where, the Republicans don't have absolute control, that, it's a very small majority, or one chamber is Democrat and the other is Republican. But this is Florida.
Control soon.
Huh?
We will have it soon.
No, I know. But I'm just bringing up the truth of how politics work. This isn't that case. We're not like Virginia. We're not like some of these states where it's a very delicate balance. This is literally 80% of the legislature is controlled by Republicans who campaign on being pro-gun. Why are they playing this dancing game as if we were Virginia, as if we were a state that was at a balancing point? They can push whatever they want, it passes. So the fact that we are aggressive in Florida, the fact that we are demanding a real bill is the right course of action, because if not, then the message gun owners are sending to lawmakers is that we're not confrontational. We're not going to challenge you on pushing anti-gun policies. We're not going to challenge you on stripping us of our rights. We're not going to challenge you on keeping the status quo. And the honest truth is lawmakers take silence as approval. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Because this past Tuesday during the committee meeting, they never expected what happened. They were expecting that the only pro-gun people were going to show up and say, I support the bill, I'm going to waive my speaking time. Great. No, every person that spoke in support of the bill said the same message. We want open carry. No more, no less. Make this a real bill. And the committee was in shock because they've never faced that before. They've never seen a room full of people demanding their rights be upheld. They're used to Democrats showing up and making a scene, and all they do is they blow it off. They've never seen their base, their core base. Gun owners are a Republican core base. Show up and say, this is what you're giving us? You're giving us table scraps when you guys are eating filet mignon? No, we want
let them eat cake.
Exactly.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, that the cake back in those days wasn't like awesome pound cake or chocolate cake. It was like crust from
it was bread.
Discarded crust. Yeah, discarded crust. Basically from what the nobles ate. So a lot of some people are like, oh, how does that make sense? I like cake. It's like, no, it's a different type of cake.
Yeah, it was Marie Antoinette's basically saying, "You dirty peasants, just starve. You guys are starving. Just eat cake." When one, it was something only the nobility ate, so it wasn't a common thing to access that was accessible anyways. And two, it was just showing how out of touch she was. And Chuck Brannon just showed how out of touch he was.
Do we know what happened to Marie Antoinette? Off with their heads.
Yeah. But Chuck Brannon's case of, the media, the newspaper asking, well, what about open carry? Everyone said they wanted open. The bill is as it is, as it is.
Wow.
And I'm glad, the gun groups are against us and the anti-gun groups are against us. We're in the middle. We're in the right spot. That's appalling. And again, the governor's silence is deafening right now. The loudest sound is the silence coming out of the governor.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
F those guys. That's what I say.
Yep.
Ron DeSantis, he's a good showman. I'm just waiting to see some action.
I agree. I mean, he's been a great governor for Florida, but at the same time, that's not a high hurdle to jump over compared to the previous governors we've had.
Like Charlie Crist.
Rick Scott, Charlie Crist, Jeb Bush. It's not a high hurdle to jump over. Look, I'm only 5'4" and I can jump that hurdle, for God's sake. So it's not that big of a hurdle. If I could jump it,
Do you think that at Thanksgiving dinner they all look at Jeb Bush as a disappointment because he's the only one that hasn't been president?
I don't know. I don't know, and I really don't care, because in the end, we shouldn't have dynastic families ruling this country anyways, or our states.
Amen.
Didn't George Washington warn about that?
George Washington warned a lot about a lot of things. He warned about political parties. He warned about foreign entanglements. He warned about a lot of things. And I still remember one of the greatest things George Washington did it was before he was president. It was right after the Revolutionary War ended, and Continental officers were furious at the Continental Congress that they weren't paid, and they wanted to stage a revolt and basically install George Washington as king. And he gave a speech to these officers, and they've only seen George Washington without glasses. And he pulls out his glasses and he puts them on, and then he reads the speech. And the officers were all amazed by this, and they were like, "What the? Washington wears glasses?" And it was him explaining, and it was him basically showing that he's not someone special. He's like everyone else. He ages, he has foibles, he has issues, he has health conditions, he grows old. He said, "Look, don't rebel, don't riot, don't throw what we've spent fighting for away in the trash."
And what he proved during that speech is he wasn't like everyone else.
Yeah.
He was selfless. All right, guys. Well, we've been on for over an hour now, so it's time to get out of here. I want to thank Luis Valdez for coming on. Valdez, Luis, whatever.
Thanks for having me, guys.
I'm a LV, as I call him, Louis Vuitton. So you can follow Rich at Flying Rich Firearms is his new channel, Flying Rich _official on Instagram, and on MySpace as well. Follow me on John Crump News, in addition to John Crump Live, of course, and read my stuff over at Amaland. I just put out a massive, really, really long article about the whole rare breed saga. And there's a lot of information that has never been released in there that is released now. And I want to thank Luis Valdez. Sorry I had to take a phone call. That was actually your boss calling. It was.
If folks want to follow me on Twitter, it's Real Florida Gun Lobbyist. So I will sometimes post a good angry tweet there.
Why did everybody rip off Aiden's Twitter handle?
Because it works.
You have the Real Gun Lobbyist, the Real Florida Gun Lobbyist, the Real Asian Gun Lobbyist.
Because Aiden set up my account because he goes, "You need a Twitter account." And I'm like, "Aiden, I was a cop forever, right? I never did social media." He goes, "You do now." And I'm like, "Oh,
yeah, okay." Aiden is the director of federal affairs for GOA. Really good guy.
So, again, guys, sorry for being late, but thank you for having me, allowing me to bring up the issues here in Florida. And real simple, to all your viewers, whether you live inside of the state or outside of the state, especially you guys outside of the state, you could do stuff. Call Governor DeSantis and tell him you want Florida to have it. But I got to go.
All right, that's good. And remember, Governor DeSantis is going to run for president, so you have more control now than you ever have of Florida politics, even though you don't live in Florida. All right, guys, we didn't get through the whole entire lawsuit. I did drop a video over on John Crump News. You can always go check it out over there, which I break down the lawsuit and everything else. A lot of the lawsuit, not the whole entire damn thing, because it's quite extensive. But we'll be back next week, and I want to wish you all a happy weekend, and just remember, you matter.